The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
This week on Garden Connections, if you have limited space for your green thumb, you'll want to stick around. We'll be talking about community gardening. Stay with us. You're watching Garden Connections. Welcome to Garden Connections. I'm Amy Whitaker. Thank you for joining us. I'm happy to introduce Kim, Kelly, and Bonnie, and they are here to talk with us about community gardening. We welcome your participation in preparing for spring planting. Call in and ask your questions. So Kim, tonight is going to be about community gardening, and I understand you are kind of the coordinator for the community garden plots here in Austin.
Yes, our Park and Rec department handles that for you.
All right, and what can you tell us? What is the idea behind community garden? Why community garden?
Well, like you said, a lot of people may live in an apartment, may have a yard that's too small to garden, so this gives them the opportunity to purchase a garden spot and grow what they need to grow.
All right, so for here in Austin, we'll just kind of use Austin as our example for tonight, but I'm sure it could vary from town to town or place to place, garden to garden. How big would an average plot be?
They are 15 by 20, and they are located just south of Woodson School, and they are $15, and you come to our office at Park and Rec to make that purchase.
Alrighty, so you can go through, purchase your plot. What about getting the plot ready to go for this season? Who's in charge of that?
Our department will plow it up from the year before and then stake it out so that you know where your garden is. They're numbered. And then if you need to do any fine tuning, you can take your tiller out there or plant as it is.
Have you had much feedback as far as soil and everything out there, what people are doing?
Some people like to add some mixtures, it's to their preference, I guess. And nobody's really said nothing doesn't grow there.
So people have had pretty good luck.
Yes, they have.
Out in the garden plots. And how do you decide, how many plots you want to buy, or can you buy more than one plot?
Oh yes, you can. Some people buy 4. I've had a family buy up to 8, but that gets a little expensive, and they have to plant a lot in 8 for that space. We have 82 gardens plotted at this time, and 67 are sold.
Oh wow, so when do people start coming in to buy their plots?
Some anxious people come in January to see if we're ready yet with our little map. And those are people that they come back every year. So they want to make sure they get their space because they've put a little extra work into their 4 spots or 2 spots.
I suppose if they've been working for a couple years, getting that soil right, getting everything just the way they like it,
yeah.
They probably want to get back to it. Have either of you participated in a community garden or plenty of room at home?
I didn't even realize there was still one in Austin. I remember there used to be years ago. So no, I haven't ever participated. And I was wondering, is there, take for instance, if you're in retail business and you wanted to grow something for your restaurant or something, can you do that?
I guess we would never tell you couldn't.
Oh, I was just curious.
But, that's a nice twist.
Mm-hmm.
To have, we don't spray it or anything, so to have your organic,
Homegrown
veggies
veggies or
yeah.
whatever.
Right.
That might be something interesting. Mm-hmm. Are there any particular rules that apply to your garden plot? Is there any standards, or is it just kind of a, on your honor system?
It's on your honor, and of course you have to plant legal items,
Yeah.
And we've never had any troubles. And just be courteous of your neighbor. If you need to go weed your garden, it is what it is.
weeded, no rules on spraying, anything like that?
No.
Nope.
Now, my husband puts marigolds around his garden, and because of rabbits. So, and he has had good luck with that. So, but I don't know, do you allow that in your community garden? Can you do flowers?
They sure can. They can, like I said, it's not something we're going to monitor like that.
Okay.
It's whatever you want to grow. That's a darn good idea.
I've heard of that before
Yes,
too.
and it works. It does.
So you can grow flowers and vegetables. What about like perennial items? I know earlier we were kind of chit-chatting and you had mentioned grapes. So being that that's something that has to be there relatively permanently, how would that work out if they're...
You're probably right, it wouldn't, because when we plow it, we plow the whole thing. We take up the, all the markers out, and that's how we do it with a tractor. So
right.
it's not like we could just skip a spot. So grapes probably wouldn't work.
All right, so it'd have to be something that could pretty much be worked up, tilled up every
Right.
year, annual type items.
Yep, annual items.
And I think, I didn't realize it was such a big space, but 15 by 20 feet is a really good sized space. You can really get a lot in there.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people mention a type of gardening called square foot gardening. And I don't know if you've heard any of your people talk about it, but this seems like, a space that it would work really well in, because you can take your 15 by 20 and split it into like 4 by 4 sections. And then in each section, you split it into 1 foot sections. That's where it gets the square foot gardening. So you've only got your 2 paths crisscrossing throughout, and then you have your blocks of vegetables. That eliminates your, all the extra walkways that you got to keep clean and such, and it allows you to reach in to everything that you've planted. And
That's a good
I wonder if
idea.
anybody does that out there. I'd be curious to know that.
so have you had much feedback about what people plant out there or anything, or
Not really.
not really?
There were a few years that some of the repeat gardeners would bring us in fresh veggies at the end of the season, just to, hey, look what I did, but they were master gardeners. Their gardens were, very nice.
Has there been any connection between like the people that grow things at the community gardens and say taking it to like farmers markets or to the food shelf?
Have you ever heard anybody that actually from the farmers market brings stuff from here?
I have not heard, because I was going to ask you, just
I have
wondering
not.
if they are allowed to grow out there. I'm on the farmers market board too, so I'll have to ask some questions about this. You
Right.
know.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah, I have never heard, but we don't ask those questions. We,
Just kind of let them
Right.
to it.
All right.
and most of the time, I don't think they're coming in to do that. They don't ever talk about it when they come in to buy their plot. But
A lot of
Why
times
not?
people will plant up a plot like this and not realize how much they're gonna get from it, and so they may have extras to bring in, like you
You
said,
bet.
to your office
Yep.
or over to neighbors or family and friends.
And then every year the growing season is different. I mean, you can
Yeah.
have wonderful tomatoes one year, and then the following year you are
Yeah.
so disappointed. So,
Well, we talked earlier, we have a garden at our house, but when we were talking ahead of time about the community garden, we talked about the fact that you irrigate out there. And I said, gosh, I'd like to have a garden just because I know that you'd be watering it for me every day.
wouldn't
and
have to worry
I wouldn't
about
have to worry about that.
you have to be a little careful with that, because once in a while, somebody might forget to go turn on a sprinkler, but not very often.
Okay.
But you still need to check it. But it's a good point.
Yeah.
What about the sense of like community among these people? Have you noticed that many of them have gotten to know each other at all through their garden plots?
They
or-
talk about that when they come in and get their plot. Oh, has so-and-so gotten their plot yet? Or where are they going to be? Some, especially the really good gardeners, some people want to be by them because something might rub off.
They,
Maybe, but-
they may learn something,
Yeah.
or it's guaranteed
Right.
to be weeded next door. Or
Yeah, I mean, there's things to that, but otherwise, I think it's just some people like it because there might not be anybody out there when they go to garden. It's not like you see a lot of people when you drive by.
Is it full sun out there? Or is
South
it-
End.
That's
Yeah, I mean, you're on the south side, and really, there's not a lot of trees. You're basically in an open space.
big,
Nice.
open,
Yeah.
sunny space. How about wind protection? Is there much wind protection in there, or is it
Not so much.
not so much? Okay. So, need your plants to be sturdy.
Yeah.
Or, yes, brace them.
Yeah, I was going to say wind is actually okay, well, small amounts of wind for things like tomatoes because it helps their stalks thicken up and makes them a little bit tougher. A lot of times in greenhouses, they will actually blow a fan on the tomato plants.
Really?
Just to get them to
okay.
toughen up. Yep, before they send them out.
So you should put them on the outside?
Might not be a bad idea.
Hey, it's all in the...
All
I'm
in the
learning.
planning,
I'm actually
right?
learning a lot about this here.
Have you ever had anybody have you ever had to ask anybody to not come back to the garden for any reason?
No,
No.
never. You know, at the end of the season, it seems like some people like to leave their pumpkins in longer, or, you know, so then we're sometimes, hey, we're gonna, you know, it's getting late, we're gonna till, and we usually don't till right away. But there have been falls that, you know, it's a little more difficult, and you gotta try to get something in, but otherwise, that's about it.
Do you usually like call people when you are ready to till in the fall and say, hey, you still have this in your garden?
If we find that there's still things, and it looks like people
Okay.
haven't been taking their stuff out, but we really haven't, I mean, for as long as I've been there, maybe one or two people. So it's not that huge a deal.
So you probably wait until it's plenty late in the
Yeah.
season,
Yeah,
let
we
everybody
wait.
get their stuff
wait.
taken care of. And so as far as fertilizer use, pesticide use,
We do fertilize it
okay,
when we till it, and that's
you add some garden
Yeah,
fertilizer
yeah,
into the soil or
yeah,
something.
That's about it. And I don't know that they do it every year,
Okay.
but that we have done that.
So otherwise it's just whatever people think they need to use and
Yep.
just keep it out of their neighbors' plots.
Right, because some people don't like to put anything on their
Mm-hmm.
garden. I know we don't at home.
We don't at our house either.
Yeah, occasionally there's things that pop up like tomato blight or something that we get questions on, but I have, you know, so many people that ask about the organic or the all natural type products, and I can imagine that the people that are avid gardeners out here doing this type of stuff, I would think they'd be pretty well, you know, versed for the most part on, you know, the different kinds of things that you may want to use for different problems or
Right.
be able to ask
Right.
somebody else. I guess the biggest thing is for anybody that's going to be using those types of products is to read the labels.
Yep, there you go.
Right.
Make sure you are using it according to the label directions. That way you'll keep your plants happy and your neighbors, just in
Yes,
case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So let's see here. It looks like, how many plots did you say you have in Austin here?
There's 82 plotted right now and 67 sold.
So that
So,
leaves
and we
only-
can actually fill in more. That's just what we plotted so far.
There is room to add. How
There
many
is
more
room
do
to
you
add.
think you could add if we had a big spike in interest?
Well, years ago, I think we had 120 out there.
Oh, wow.
But we would definitely have to, you know, add the irrigation back
Mm-hmm.
in. It happened that we had to cut it down. Well, number one, people weren't planting gardens, and then they were kind of haphazardly all over the place. So we want to kind of concentrate, you know, so when we sell, just because of the way the irrigation is now.
So, do you have, being that you're so close to Woodson School, do you ever have anything that crosses over between the schools and the community garden?
No, not that direction. You know, if anything, you might have. We've had some vandalism maybe on the outsides.
Okay.
You know, if
Vandalism.
somebody might throw some pumpkins or,
Oh.
you know, in the fall. But we haven't had a lot of vandalism. So I think it's in a pretty good spot.
Well, how about schools? Do the schools utilize the community gardens at all here in town?
There have been some years that some of the areas of the school will get one plot.
Okay.
But, and they talked about it this year, but I don't see them on the list right now. So maybe they'll still do that.
Like a biology class or like
Or,
what types
or
of
more
classes?
ESL, or, you know, I mean,
Okay,
you
yeah.
know, something more in that lines. The biology class, you know,
Not so much. I suppose it's kind of hard to get students out and there
Right.
and back again.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe any extracurricular type summer programs that work out there. I know the 4-H has a community garden, or not a community garden, but their own junior master gardener garden out at the fairgrounds.
right.
Do you?
Not in the last few years.
last
I
few
mean,
years.
you never know. They might decide to do that again as long as you're talking about it.
Yeah.
It's a big space.
So, any of the schools out there, if you want to start an after-school program for some mini gardeners, little gardeners.
Right. Maybe the grade schools could start
Yeah,
instead of
take
4-H.
a little plot.
Right.
And maybe they could help serve it up in the cafeteria or something. I can't help but think about that Food Nation TV
Right.
show that's on. I don't know, but just, some of the things you see that are going into kids' diets even through school, how neat might it be to have your own plot or two at a garden and grow some of that and bring it in.
Right.
That might be
that'd be
neat.
cool.
And with the recession going on, there's been quite a bit on TV about gardens, and like in your large areas, vacant lots in the Chicago area, they're doing gardens, and they're letting whether the homeless people take care of it or they can come and pick, and there's been quite a bit on that.
Neat.
But I think there's nothing better than something fresh.
Yeah, and I think I've even seen that too, where, we were kind of not so many people talking about veggie gardens or asking about
Right.
veggie gardens, and probably the last couple of years, I've had many, many calls on, I want to start a garden. What do I need to do? How do I need to fix my soil? All those kinds of things. I went from maybe having a call or two a month to having multiple calls a week, and just
Yeah.
lots of
Produce
interest.
is getting so expensive in the stores. So it just makes sense if you can, for $15, buy a 15 by 20 plot, fill it up, get all your fresh produce, and you can, at the end of the season, freeze it, can it, save it, and eat it through the winter.
Yeah. I mean, and share a plot. If you don't think you can fill one, or if you think you're going to have too much for one family, share one.
Well, that's a
Spread
good
it
idea.
around.
Yes.
You don't. We're not saying that.
Share the work.
Yeah. Share the
Share the
work.
plots.
Exactly.
And share the rewards.
Yes.
Especially if it's your first time. Maybe you don't want to bite off all that.
Yeah, it's a big area to
is.
handle. But you can't put strawberries in it because those would be perennial. I mean,
Right.
those have a tendency to
Oh.
take over space pretty
Yeah,
fast.
we probably don't
but
want those out there.
No strawberries, no asparagus. So those are things that you might have to find room to pop in
In your yard.
your yard, or you can do like a jar with the little holes in it with the strawberries if you want some strawberries and you don't have a lot of room. So there's all kinds of ways to, if you don't have a lot of space for a garden, go about through a community garden or through some pots, whatever. You can still try to grow some stuff.
Good. Yeah.
And so mostly vegetables is what you're seeing out there for
Yes.
the most part.
For the
Yep.
most part.
All right, and I understand there is a garden tour coming up, maybe for those people that think, oh, I might want to start a garden, but I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, that they could go on a tour, maybe get some ideas.
Well, it's a little different type of gardening. Instead of fruits and vegetables, it's more geared around your landscaping and your flowers in your yard. But Spruce Up Austin is going to be again holding its annual yard and garden tour this summer. Annual with the exception of last year
Yes.
when a tornado stopped our plans. But this will be the 5th year that we've had our yard and garden tour. And it's going to be held on June 26th from 9:30 to 1. So we're excited about that. We've got some beautiful gardens that we're going to be featuring. I can't tell you about them today because they're top secret. We're all sworn to secrecy. But it's a self-guided tour, and a lot of the gardens, really what this all stemmed from was that we've been doing a Yard of the Month award with local neighbors since 2002.
Correct.
Right? And every year we award Yard of the Months in June, July, August, and September. And all the Spruce Up members would go over to give the award. And when we did that, we were allowed to go into the backyards. And we found so many hidden treasures in this community that people don't see, that we said, wouldn't it be neat if we had a garden tour and we're able to show off some of these yards and all the hard work that people have put into them to the rest of the community. So we've been doing it annually as a fundraiser, and then we take the money that we raise and we put it back into the community by planting more trees and gardens on public property.
And Amy, how the the yard of the month is a little bit different because when we're judging, we can only judge the front of the yard. So,
Okay.
so that's, but normally people that have a lovely front yard, they have a lovely backyard. So, and then the local nurseries have given us $25 gift certificates to give to the winners. So that's a little perk for them, and we try to have a picture taken of them. And then the other requirement, if they would have our spruce up sign in their front yard for 3 weeks or that, just saying that they've been the recipient of Yard of the Month. So, but then it also gets excitement, don't you think, in the neighborhood? Because even when we have the Yard of the Month, people do, the neighbors, all of a sudden they're coming over just to get in on the excitement.
So it's, you know, community enrichment for the most part, just everybody being able to see how beautiful our community can be.
It's a little reward to people
Yep.
for taking the time to make their yard look nice. I mean, they appreciate it, but it's nice to show them that other people appreciate it as well.
So what else can you tell us about the tour? We know that it's...
Well, one thing is that we try to have a variety of types of yards. So it's going to be a mix of people that do all the work themselves, people that have professionals come in and do the work for them. It's going to be small yards, large yards. Some have water features, some don't. So we like to really mix it up and show a variety. The tickets this year are going to be $6 a piece if you buy them in advance. If you don't buy them in advance, they're going to be $8 on the day of the tour. So I encourage people to get out ahead of time and buy them. And they'll be able to buy their tickets, and they're not on sale yet. They're probably going to be available about 3 weeks before the tour, so maybe just after the 1st of June. But they'll be able to buy them at Dolan's, Berg's, Hardy Geranium, and Super Fresh Produce.
Okay, so a few places here in town. And how many yards are on the tour from year to year?
We are typically, what we've done in the past is had 4 private yards and 1 public area.
Okay.
This year we're going to be showing 5 private yards.
All right. And how do people go about starting the tour? I mean, what do they do when they have their ticket?
Well, again, it's a self-guided tour. So what they'll do is they'll buy their ticket, and their ticket is going to list the 5 properties. It also will include a map, so they just get out their map and pick the one they want to go to first. When they get there, there'll be a Spruce Up member there to greet them. And also the homeowner will be home. So they just are able to walk around the yard, ask questions, take pictures. So get some great ideas. And then we also, on our coupon, or on our ticket, we feature coupons for each of the places that sells tickets. So then they get their great ideas, they can go back to the nursery and start buying the things they need to put their plans into action.
Do you think on these tours we're going to see more functional gardens like vegetable gardens and stuff popping up, or do you think they're going to be mostly just landscape?
Well, as you know, people do different things from year to year. Last year we had, or not last year, but our last tour that we had 2 years ago, the woman had vegetable container gardens all around her yard. And so that was really inspirational for people, and maybe we'll see some of that this year as well.
Because I know I have seen some people that actually put herbs and such in with their regular flower gardens, because herbs can flower and look very nice.
Yes.
Or if they need a spot, you know, with some height in a spot, they'll throw tomatoes in between their shrubs. Kim, it sounds like you've heard this.
We put dill in one of our big whiskey barrels, and I put petunias all the way around the bottom of it. It was actually kind of cool.
It
So I
is.
think you can definitely learn how to kind of work that all in and gain something with it. And it was on our patio, so it wasn't like out in my garden, but it was there. So mint, like you guys had told me, don't put it in your garden. Put it in a container. That's my plan. And it will smell nice and be cool.
They'll smell nice, be
Yeah.
cool, and be in with your flowers.
Yeah.
One of our tours a few years ago, the homeowner had a cherry tomato plant growing in her flower landscape. And it just was that little pop of color. And it was functional too, because they could just walk over. She said her kids walk over and pick the tomatoes off and eat them like they're snacks.
Yeah, not a bad snack.
Well,
Not a
choose
bad
snack.
No, and I've also seen, the colorful peppers. They're a great way to add some color to maybe an area that you notice in mid to late summer, there's nothing flowering or whatnot.
Right.
So you throw some colored peppers in there, and there you go. You got purple, yellow, red, all
Right.
kinds of color.
And that'll give those people who don't want to come and get a full garden some ideas to maybe get some fresh produce.
Yeah. the
Or
ones.
people that, maybe they've considered container gardening, but they don't want just a vegetable growing. Throw some flowers in there with
Yeah.
it, make it pretty.
For sure, you can definitely mix those kinds of things up. And again, Kim, for those people wanting to look into the community garden, they can come talk to you.
At Park and Rec, 121 4th Avenue Northeast, next to the Paramount Theater. Plots are 15 by 20, $15 each.
All right, very, very good. It looks like it's filling up fast, so if you're interested in getting a plot here in Austin, probably about time to get on in and look it up. If they don't have enough left, they can possibly always dig you one, so definitely get in there and get your plans going for your garden. And for more information, you can log on to ksmq.org and click on Garden Connections. You can catch past episodes, join the blogs, and tell us about your garden experiences. Now that you're ready to grow your garden, vegetables will be next. Tune in next week when we'll talk more about ideas for your garden. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amy Whitaker. See you next week.